anticipating a long meeting because I got two waters, eh? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the organizational meeting for October 16th, 2023 at 4:25. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Jessica that Joel Goodenough be appointed as Deputy Chief Elected Official for 2023-2024, and further that Deputy Chief Elected Official be authorized to use the title as Deputy Mayor. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Nesbitt that Mohammed Idris be appointed as acting mayor for 2023-2024, as may be required from time to time in the event the mayor and or deputy mayor are unavailable. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the 2023-2024 board committees, commissions, and subcommittee appointments as outlined in the attached listing and forming part of these minutes be made effective October 16th, 2023 to the date of the 2024 organizational meeting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that in the event of an appointed member is not able to attend a meeting, the mayor may attend in place of the appointed member, or the mayor may appoint another member of council to attend in place of the appointed member. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the mayor, deputy mayor, or acting mayor and manager of finance, deputy chief administrative officer, or chief administrative officer be authorized to act as signing authority for the city of Brooks. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor that the meeting adjourn at 4:27. Are we good here?
Councillor Idris?
Moved by Councillor Idris that the meeting adjourned at 4:27 p.m. All those in favor? Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for the City of Brooks for October 16th, 2023. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. We're demonstrating this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. Before we get started, just a couple notes here. First of all, there's a couple guys from the fire department here. A nice open house on Saturday there. Nice awards there. You guys did a nice job, and the public came out and responded. So it was good there. So thanks very much there too. And we did our time capsule on Saturday too. And thanks to Jenny and Alan for organizing that. I thought it went very well. No, I thought it was went very well there, and I think some of the councilors that were there that day, we talked about getting another one together, so we're kind of doing that there. I was kind of doing the math on this one here, because in 25 years, I think John will be 94, if I do the math on that one there. Okay. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the agenda be adopted. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Jessica that the minutes from the regular council meeting held October 3rd, 2023 be approved. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the September 2023 RCMP report be accepted as information. Okay, welcome you guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I have a typo here, but it should say September in 2023. We responded to 384 municipal calls for service. We lodged a total of 29 prisoners, and there were 192 municipal criminal record checks completed, and 34 violation tickets were issued within the city. Some miscellaneous calls we had from September. On the 3rd, at 3:38 a.m., we had a complaint of a collision in the Greenbrook area. We arrived on scene and learned that a vehicle had struck several parked cars. We located the driver, a 20-year-old male from Brooks. He was heavily impaired when we arrived on scene, and he was arrested and charged with impaired driving. On September 6th at 3:05 a.m., we responded to an assault in progress at a residence in Brooks. A 36-year-old male had kicked his neighbor's door, and following a physical altercation between them. Male was intoxicated and uncooperative with police on scene. He was taken into custody. And during the arrest, he assaulted one of our police officers, and he was later released with charges of assaulting a police officer in mischief, and the police officer had very minor injuries. On the September 11th at 9:41 a.m., we received a report of a stabbing that occurred at a residence in Brooks. Upon arrival, we found a 61-year-old male with some very significant injuries. Another male was arrested on scene and later charged with attempted murder. The victim's recovering from his injuries, and the suspect remains in custody. And that's all I have. My report.
Okay. Any questions? Just a couple comments. The first one, we had, I think when we had met previously, we talked about communication, and I think it's vastly improved, whatever. I think it's, even I'm getting the media releases, and I think they're going out to the media there, and the communication between the department is really good, so I appreciate that there too. A couple other things too. Thanks. You guys were helping out with the fire department open house. You had an officer there, a couple officers there, and at the Bandits game on Friday night, you were showing, the officers out there too, and I think that's kind of nice too, that you're out and about there. So just a couple comments on that there too. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions, yeah. You got off easy today.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that the Brooks and District Health Foundation presentation role in the community and update on projects be accepted as information. Diane, if you want to come forward here, there should be a red button there that either Jenny or Shelley will show you what to push there. There you go.
Sorry, I gotta adjust the chair. It's pretty short. Feel like I'm in kindergarten. Okay. We appreciate the opportunity to be here today. This is Shauna James. She's our part-time administrator at the foundation. The purpose of our presentation today is to inform our community about what's happening at the Health Foundation and our role in the community. The foundation was formed as a charitable organization in 1996 and has since invested $5.5 million by the end of March 24 into healthcare in our community. This is money that we are entrusted as a board to assess and evaluate where the greatest needs are. So we take the donations and we get requests from frontline workers, the staff, physicians. We go through the hospital, we see things, the community, the communities that are either patients or their families while they're in there see need. They come to us and make a request of, or in other events, sometimes they'll see a need and they'll donate the funds to make the improvement that needs to be done. So our role is to basically make sure that that money gets invested in the best possible manner for our community and continue to enhance the experience for all our family, friends, and community members that utilize our facility. The majority of the equipment, the bigger equipment that we have, like our CT scanner, ultrasound machines, X-ray machines, that kind of stuff, if you look at them, you'll see that they were bought and purchased and put in the site by the community. So, and we get our donations from memorial, in memory of loved ones, legacy funds, like currently we have the Eric Hawk pediatric fund that's been started after the loss of the Hawk family. They lost their 14-month-old son and they started a fund in his memory. And that fund is going to be in excess of $100,000 by the end of our fiscal year, probably close to $150,000, if not more. We also get donations from tax planning strategies, insurance policies, stock options, estate donations, bequested funds, and again, family members that identify things that are needed. We've had partnerships with Allied. They saw in memory of their mom. They donated TVs for the long-term care. So this is ongoing, and we want to be here. As in the past, we've had a member from City Council, and we've also had a member from the County Council on our board, and we don't have that now, and we feel that it's important that we communicate with our community so you guys understand or know what's going on at the hospital or what our role is in the site. We've got partnerships at various levels. We partnered with Tim Hortons. They do the Smile Cookies for us. Their funds over the last number of years have gone towards the new Stax wheelchairs that are in there, which are really great and handy, and people can't steal them. Yeah. It's an important thing. We've partnered with Interpipeline on a teddy bear campaign for the children going to community health for their first year immunizations. We've partnered with the Brick on a teddy bear campaign. This is a really unique partnership. They have a partnership with the Brick buys bears. They buy them, and they're really cute bears, and they actually have doctor uniforms, which is really bonus. But the proceeds of those bears go to the Miracle Children's Network, and in turn in Alberta, Southern Alberta, that's Calgary Children's Hospital. And they have set up with us that if you buy a bear and you don't want it, they'll donate it to the Health Foundation. So then we're not using donor dollars to buy bears to comfort kids when they're in the hospital. We've also got a partnership going with Silver Sage. They're doing a fundraiser where they're selling 50-50 tickets and they're donating back proceeds. But we're continuing to build these partnerships, and it's really a great asset for our community, and it gets people interacting and collaborating and seeing what we can do to keep being more progressive on keeping the hospital equipped. The biggest thing that we find with what we do is in effort to retain and attract physicians and professionals at our site, it's important that we have the equipment there. It's also important that we have the equipment there so we can keep our loved ones close to home in need. So we're presently have done a soft opening. It's not us. We don't manage the hospital, by the way. Sorry. We help make sure that as much equipment is there. But what we've done is we donated $750,000 to the new Unit B, which is a 14-bed unit. They've done a soft opening. There'll be a formal opening, and once that happens, we'll share that with the community, and you guys will be invited to come. So we're looking forward to collaborating with you guys, keeping you informed, and also you guys have more exposure, the councils have more exposure to what's happening on the political front. We don't do that. We're just at the hospital trying to make sure that we can keep improving our healthcare in our community. So we also have annual ongoing fundraisers, which are low workload for us in the most part. We have casinos. We do a casino each year, and then we do a win-win 50-50. It's a cash lottery, and anybody can participate in it. And with that lottery, we get a percentage of the proceeds. So how many foundations is there in Alberta again? 70 foundations in Alberta, health foundations. So pretty much every community that has a hospital has a health foundation. So a lot of the communities have joined it, especially the smaller communities, because this 50-50 lottery, how it works is anybody in your community can buy tickets, and there's monthly draws, like there's lots of cash draws. Every month, a couple of months, there's a draw a day, there's lots of $1,000 draws, there's a number of $50,000 draws, there's a $250,000 draw at December 31st. We were very fortunate last year. I got to call the winner for $50,000 on Christmas Day. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And we had another one right after that, so it was really impressive. But the proceeds, how it works is we get a percentage of the net proceeds that are allocated to our funds. So if you buy tickets, you can look down the list and find the Health Foundation, the Brooks and District Health Foundation. So if they have if we end up with 10% of the ticket purchases designated to us, we'll get 10% of the proceeds. So, and that has been a good, probably a $17,000 to $20,000 a year fundraiser for us that we don't really have to do a lot of work for. Just promote it. We are working, we're a working board. We currently meet 9 times a year. We don't meet June, July, and December. We're actively always recruiting volunteers, trying to get more volunteer board members. So if you know any retired friends or anything that want to come hang out with us, we're a lot of fun. What else? So we also promote education in our site. We assist with funding for education to help retain and attract physicians again. We're unique being a rural site. You're rural urban, but we serve a very large area. And our staff cannot be specialized because, or I shouldn't say can't be, but specialized training doesn't really work in our site because of the size, and we don't have specialty departments. So we find that training and helping to bring training to our community gives those staff the confidence in various situations. Then they are very good about figuring out the needs and help and advising us, and then we go and try to facilitate bringing those educators to our community, which is a great asset because when we do that, it's difficult to send people away, it's expensive to send people away. When we bring a trainer to our site, we can do anywhere from 10 to 20 people and get them trained. We do the alarm course, which is a course for emergency baby delivery, births, and that one is a particular importance in our community. So,
especially for our physician group.
Yeah.
This past August, we just trained 22 staff members total, including physicians, and 2 of the physicians were outside of our community that came, so.
Yeah, if we don't fill the seats, we invite outside communities to come in. They pay, the physicians pay for their share, the nursing staff, they pay a portion of it, we apply for grants. That's another funding source for us, there's a lot of grants available, and we try to make our best efforts to apply for grants to help us do the things we do at the hospital. Yeah, and we were looking at some pretty exciting projects coming up, but at this point, we're still working on them before we can expand on that. And that's what we hope to bring back in maybe a couple times a year, come and meet with you guys and give you an update on what we're doing. This meeting, or this particular one is a little bit longer just because we have, I wanted to give you a bit of background about what we do. Let's see here, sorry. So, some of you are aware that we are partnering with the city of Brooks and Joint Services, I guess it's Joint Services,
Joint services,
correct?
yeah.
With the maternity clinic that's at the hospital. It came to our attention it may not have been set up quite right. So we've had discussions with Joint Services, or with Lisa Tippin, and then it was at Joint Services. You guys, the members of Joint Services, I think, had to approve it.
Yeah.
And decide if that partnership would work for you guys. It works for the Health Foundation. So basically, what would happen is funds would come through the Health Foundation and then get directed to the provincial government in order to help maintain that maternity clinic at the Brooks Hospital. And that's a real asset from what we're told with the physician group and any of the members in our community. So, and then the other thing that we spoke with Lisa Tippin and the Joint Services was the attraction and retention funding that you guys, that's available to new physicians in our community. And that was another option that we thought of running through the Health Foundation. And one thing to keep in mind when we are trying to do these partnerships and run things through the Health Foundation is that our foundation, 100% of our donated dollars goes into equipment. Our operating costs are covered by a grant that we get from the Alberta government, or through AHS, based on how much money we raise, or how much revenue we generate in the year. So that grant is what pays for our administration and those kinds of things. And we have other grants, like there's specialty enhancement grants that we can apply for as well for promotional things and that kind of stuff. But we can proudly say 100% of the donated dollars goes right back into our site and helps to provide the services we have at our healthcare center and other healthcare components in our community, because we don't only support the health center, we support community health and the lodges and various other health-related organizations in our community. So, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today.
Okay, I'll open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Wardrop.
Thank you for the presentation. A couple questions for you. So you mentioned that Unit B got the revamp. What's new on Unit B? What was the renovation, or what is the renovation?
It was originally the maternity wing, and then it was basically offices in that wing. Mm-hmm. So we have 14 new added beds for subacute and long-term care.
Okay.
So, and it's really nice. So we really want to promote upgrading the rest of the hospital now to match that.
Absolutely. So you did mention like the maternity clinic and the other project you mentioned. But is that what's next for you? Because you kind of mentioned like you've got a couple of projects on the horizon.
So the maternity clinic's existing. Joint Services funds that and works with the physician group for that, but the way it's set up technically is not correct. So they were looking at, how do we better set this up? We are a registered nonprofit or registered charitable organization, so it's easier to run it through us than through the physician group, because you as a governing body, you cannot pay Alberta Health Services directly, so it has to go through a charitable avenue. So that and the joint services, or sorry, the retention and attraction component was, you guys already have that set up. It was just basically a different routing of the funding. So we have other projects that we're working on that are related to education and upgrading some more aspects of the hospital. And we will be releasing information once we get confirmation on it.
Okay, that's what I was curious
Yeah,
about. So
sorry,
I'm
I
just
had
a little
to kinda
nosy,
go
I guess,
through-
before.
Yeah, and the one thing too, just historically, there's been some issue with communication and getting the proper facts out to the community. So we're trying really hard to ensure that we don't have any flub-ups on things going forward. So we have a memorandum of understanding that we sign with Alberta Health Services when we get into our bigger projects, so that they know, or they present everything to us that we are aware of how that project's gonna go down, so that, you know, we know, everybody, each party knows what their expectations are. So we have started this and are now maintaining that on bigger projects that we do a memorandum of understanding.
And with the Unit B project, just to clarify, I know there will be an announcement formally, but the Unit B project is 9 subacute beds and 5 community transition beds. So it's not long-term care. So subacute, no, I just thought I should clarify
Yeah.
that, because those 9 beds typically will be for people that need some more care or are transitioning back to Sunrise or back home, et cetera. And the 5 other beds are for palliative care, respite, et cetera, really specific to our community under the home care umbrella, from what I'm understanding, just to make that, clarify that to everybody.
It's nice to have that open. I don't know if you guys had a big part in getting it open again, so, but nice to have that open. I think you said, yeah, 750,000 or something you put into that.
750,000 is what the
Yeah,
foundation,
yeah,
or the foundation.
Foundation.
Basically, the community
Yeah,
is
yeah.
invested.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Councilor Jessica.
Yeah,
Oh,
just-
sorry, did you have another one?
It's okay,
Okay,
you can
yeah.
come back to me. I had one more, but.
No, just on Unit B, then, last I heard of it was there had been some delays. So is it up and running yet, or is it?
They're doing what I will call what has been brought to me. I'm probably hard to ask, as I am dual role within the facility, so I do work for AHS and the foundation, but they're currently, with staffing, they've slowly started to bring patients over to that unit. So from my understanding, probably within the next month, we'll get a formal letter that we can actually approach the whole community with and have a formal opening.
Okay, Councilor Wardrop?
My other question has to do with the city and county, sorry, they were historically on the board, was what you said?
Yes, we actually, Dan Klein was on our board prior to his term being up, and then we had a representative from the county as well. Now, historically, prior to that, I don't know if there was always a representative on the Health Foundation. I've been on the foundation for 9 years, so, and during my time, there's always been.
Yeah, and just a clarification, Dan was there just as a volunteer, and he was a city councillor, but he was just there, it wasn't a city-appointed position, he was there just as a.
Okay,
so that's
that
the
was what I
difference.
was
Yeah, I
curious
guess,
about as well.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the difference. I mean,
Thank you.
and the board, anybody who wants to join, as she said, you can be on that board there. She says it's a lot of fun.
We just, like, we really appreciated the fact of having somebody that was related and sitting at these meetings as well, because they would, you know, be able to bring back information to us to help us make decisions as well and make us aware of what was going on, because we don't have that contact right now,
Yeah.
so.
But I
That's
think.
gonna- sorry,
No,
Mayor.
okay. No, I was gonna say, I mean, what we can do, if there are pertinent stuff that we think you should know about, I think it's important for us to relay it to you there. And secondly, we're open to the idea of every 6 months, to have you in here to give us update on that, because, I mean, it's also an update to the community too, and I think the community likes to know what's going on too.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
Councilor Woodward, yeah.
Yeah, just along those lines, I was curious if that's something that you would, you'd like to see.
Yes, that is definitely why
Yeah.
we're here today, and
So you would
that's-
like
we'd like to continue to do this, like, every 6 months or.
like to revisit, or you'd like to see somebody kind of their
If-
monthly to,
If there's,
I think the best would be for her or Shauna, you know, to come and give a presentation every 6 months. Yeah, like, almost like we're doing today with an update. I think that would probably
Yeah.
be the best, yeah.
but if you're wanting to join the foundation, we're
yeah.
more than welcome to join.
Yeah, Councillor Wardrop, yeah, you certainly. Okay, any other, Councillor Idris, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation and for the work you do in the community. To summarize, as we said, this is public information also. Is there a summary on what can the foundation money be used for and what it can't be used for?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Foundation dollars are mainly used for, maybe I'll just back it up. AHS pays for brick and mortar, staffing, consumables, and then we, like, basic equipment, but they have to have it in their budget. So in the event of a piece of equipment breaking down and prematurely, and they don't have it in their budget, we will help them with that. But there'll be events where we're trying to work together and build like a wish list, and then they can put it on their budgets, and we can also have it on our radar, so that in the event of families wanting to make a memorial donation in memory of a loved one or things like that, we have some options for them, or they can do just a straight cash donation, so.
Okay, the other question is regarding, and you alluded to the idea of the MOU with Alberta Health Services. What's the role of Alberta, like in major projects, if the community, in I think in the past, maybe there was, okay, the community wants this, and the community is willing to, so how does that happen? How does decisions around these things happen?
Okay, so that's, Alberta Health Services decides what happens at our site. They come to us with presentation and a proposal, and then they'll answer, go through a process where we decide whether or not it's feasible. And when we look at projects, we look at the feasibility as well as serving the greatest needs of our community is kind of the key of when we make our decisions on. So we look at how many people are going to be impacted by this. Like this Unit B, at some point, every family in our community, if they're a long-term resident of our community, will be impacted by that unit. Yeah, the CT scanner is a prime example. Personally, in our family, we had a farm accident, and thankfully, thanks to the community for putting in the equipment in our site, our family member was able to stay here and not be transported out of the community. So for a lot of people, like as your parents are aging and, various levels of care that are required, we are a first point of contact hospital. So we can't serve every need in the medical field. It's impossible based on our size. But what we can do is have first-class service for patients that need it immediately. And then they're taken out if they have to be, but if not, in a lot of cases, they can keep you here thanks to our community,
Thank you.
so.
Okay. Any other questions? 5.5 million, that's a big chunk that you've contributed into the community over time. That you are an important and integral part of what happens out at the health center there, so we appreciate that. And thanks for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Nesbitt that the following items of correspondence be received as information updates in council conferences or workshops, the accounts payable listing, and notes from council committee, October 10th, 2023. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that the November 20th, 2023 be hereby, that November 20th, 2023 be hereby proclaimed as National Day of the Child in the City of Brooks. Amanda.
Through the chair to mayor and council, on October 5th, 2023, council received a letter from the Brooks and County of Newell Early Childhood Coalition regarding National Day of the Child. November 20th, 2023 is National Child Day in Canada and has been celebrated since 1993 when it was officially declared with the Child Day Act to commemorate the UN Declaration and the UN Convention on Rights of a Child. By proclaiming National Child Day, it will encourage actions to be taken in the promotion of the well-being of the world's children. For more information regarding National Child Day and child rights, individuals may visit www.childday.gc.ca or attend the community event being held at the JBS Canada Centre in the Field House on Saturday, November 18th from 10 a.m. till 12 noon. Therefore, the Brooks and County of Newell Early Childhood Coalition respectfully requests that November 20th, 2023 be hereby proclaimed as National Child Day in the City of Brooks.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that council accept the off-site levy presentation as information. Shelley.
Thank you. I assume, Bruce, you're driving for me then? Okay, excellent. Thank you, through the chair to mayor and council. I'm pleased to present off-site levies update for you. There is a lot of information in the update and in the attached report, so I'm going to try and summarize it so it's easy to understand. So off-site levies, and we may refer to them as OSL, but they're payments imposed by the city pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, Section 648, in respect of land that's being developed. These levies are anticipated to estimate past and future capital costs of infrastructure which directly benefit the development of these lands. So really this is a way for the municipality to partner with our developers in order to build the infrastructure that we need to accommodate growth while ensuring a financial sustainable community and support our development. So really that's all it is we will require infrastructure when we have growth, and it's just a method of partnering with our developers. So a little background and methodology. So the City of Brooks partnered with Corvus Business Advisors in 2021 to complete the necessary information in order to establish charging our off-site levies to developers. So we did have a bylaw prior to that, but we put our information into the Corvus business model in order to really utilize the model to come up with fair and equitable rates. So the rates and supporting information form a part of our current bylaw, 2124, and the off-site projects that were identified, there were off-site projects identified for certain categories, which is transportation, water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater infrastructure. So reviewing and updating the assumptions and estimates that form a basis of the off-site levies that were put into that model is a very important part of the process, so that the rates always reflect the expectation of the next 25 years. The model itself is based on a rolling 25 years, and in order to keep it that way and relevant, updates are quite necessary. Therefore, City of Brooks administration has updated the information. In 2023, we've compiled the new update and will be proposing new off-site levy rates to be effective January 1st, 2024, based on the information that we've updated. So this presentation will outline the proposed changes, and the off-site levy update will be made available to the public for their consultation and feedback. This meeting, or this presentation, was also advertised to the public to let them know that we would be doing it today. So the following information was needed to calculate fair and equitable rates. So first we look at past and future scheduled infrastructure projects. So we'll refer to those as off-site infrastructure costs, and the extent to which those projects will benefit future development. Next, we also need to know the anticipated development in the identified off-site levy areas. So I'll go into each of these in a little bit more detail as we go through the information. As well, off-site levy reserve balances, and that represents off-site levies that have been collected already for future use towards identified projects, and different assumptions, financial assumptions like forecasting interest rates and inflation rates. So first to look at our off-site infrastructure costs, and these are all in millions of dollars. So what we did is we identified in the next 25 years, our total off-site infrastructure costs will be just over $100 million. This is based on the same projects that were identified in the last off-site levy report. All we've done is updated them based on what we've already spent, and we've also adjusted some of the costs for inflation, adjusted those inflation rates because some of these projects are well into the 25 years. From that costs, we've also identified special earmarked grants and contributions of $36.79 million. So these costs would be deducted from any costs that would be charged to developers or considered part of what the developer would be benefiting from. When we talk about special earmarked grants, we're not talking about grants that the city already gets, like MSI or gas tax. We're talking about grants that we specifically apply for those infrastructure projects and receive. This leaves from the information we've gathered the share of costs which benefit existing development, which would be the city's portion of these projects over the whole 25 years, is $38.93 million. And the share of costs which benefit future development, which is the developer's share, I said all through the 25 years, but through what we've identified, which actually goes beyond 25 years, is $24.5 million. We've then narrowed it down to the 25 years. So there are some projects that happen at the end of the 25 years which still benefit out further. So that's called financial oversizing. So to put it in terms of just what's benefited in the next 25 years, the cost to developers is $19.22 million of all of those projects. I will mention that in the report, there is summaried information, and then there's information on each type of infrastructure, so transportation, water, wastewater, and stormwater. And in those appendixes is detailed information of which projects have been identified and of each project which share or what percentage is deemed to benefit the developers. The next piece of information that has been gathered is the off-site levy areas and the forecasted development. So the total anticipated development in the next 25 years is 186.73 hectares. So this is area in the city that we have not developed and we're anticipating to develop over the next 25 years. This information is based on assumptions that have not changed. The forecasted development assumptions have not changed since the last report. So how they were developed was the city was divided into 25 off-site levy areas, depending on which projects would benefit them. And through that, we could tell which areas hadn't been developed, and then from that undeveloped area, anticipate what the development would be over the years. Now, it's very difficult to anticipate that development. When we put this together back in 2021, MPE assisted us and gave us some basic guidelines. In this update, we haven't changed any of those assumptions. We've just adjusted what was actually developed in the 2 years that have passed and added the 2 years at the end of the 25-year period. So that's the only changes we've done here. So in this update period, which began in January 1st, 2021, was 1.02 hectares is what was developed. Yes. So the offsite levies that we have collected, and this is as of December 31st, 2022, is 6,164,583. And for each type of infrastructure, it's also broken down up on the screen. In the update period, the levies that we collected is 74,146. Now, this is what we've collected. Some of it has been used towards infrastructure projects, and some of it is still in reserves. So that's an important part of the model, because we have to account for the money that we've collected and have already for the infrastructure projects that we're looking at for the next 25 years. And so it's mandated in the Municipal Government Act that we keep those monies in reserves, and we also add interest, or add a interest component to them. So we do keep the reserves separated by type of infrastructure. So the next slide shows a breakdown of our offsite levies reserves. So totally we have 1,110,461. And again, transportation, the transportation reserve has a balance of 184,559. Water is in a negative balance, and that indicates that the city has upfronted costs for water infrastructure projects that we haven't collected from our developers yet. So we do keep track of negative balances as well. And just like the positive balances we add interest to because we're holding that money, with negative balances, we charge interest for holding that money. So the developers, because we've upfronted those costs, we can add a charge to it that we can collect from the developers in the future as we move forward, as we move forward and building that infrastructure. The sanitary sewer offsite levy reserve has just over $1 million in it, and the storm water reserve, $386,997. Now, of course, this reserve money is available to use for any of those identified infrastructure projects that we proceed with. So I did kind of allude to interest rates and financing assumptions. So we have in this update modified our rates that we're using, and that does have an impact on the overall offsite levy rates. But we have increased the offsite levy charging rate. So the charging rate would be the amount we use to charge on offsite levy reserves that are in a negative balance. So in our case, the water offsite levies. And we've changed that from 2% to 5.11%. We've used the same assumption, and that is based on the 20-year lending rate from loans from local authorities, which is basically just illustrates the change in interest rates that we've witnessed over the last 2 years. On the other side of it, the offsite levy earning rate, so the money we've collected from developers that we haven't used for infrastructure projects yet, that interest rate that we credit them with has gone from 1% to 5.6%, and that again, is based on the same assumption, and that is a one-year GIC rate. So that is the current, that's the change that we've made on that. We've also adjusted the construction price index. So of course, like I said, some of the projects are far out into the future, so we do apply construction to the, or inflation to the construction costs. And previously in our last model, we were using 3%. This year, we chose to use, based on the consumer price index, 4.8% for the next 3 years, and then bring it back to 3% for the remaining 25-year period. Again, this model is most effective if we update these assumptions annually, and that way, you know, as long as they're based on the same assumptions, the updates become very relevant. So we can go into our rate update. Hopefully I've kind of explained most of the changes that we've made to where we were in 2021 when we first used this model. So with that, the rates that are required for $100.26 million of offsite infrastructure cost, which is what we've identified based on our master plans and again, the same assumptions that was used in the last update, would be approximately $81,414 per hectare on a weighted average. So in our last update, that weighted average was $79,823. The reason we use weighted averages in this comparative is every offsite levy area would have a different rate because each offsite levy has different identified projects. So some has more, some has less. The offsite levy areas, some of them have very little land to be developed, and other offsite levies have lots of land that needs to be developed. So there is certainly a rate. In the offsite levy update report, all of that is broken up and all of the specifics are there. So that increase represents a 2% weighted average increase over the rates in bylaw 2024. Again, specific rates for each offsite levy and each infrastructure category can be found on page 7 of the 2023 offsite levy update. So our next steps is the 2023 offsite levy update will now be made available to stakeholders for their review and feedback. Bylaw changes will be made based on the new rates and assumptions and be brought to council prior to January 1st, 2024. Once we have, the feedback from the stakeholders, it is required in the MGA to ensure that any affected people or stakeholders have the information available, can ask questions and give feedback. So with this presentation, one of the reasons we wanted to present it and lay it out is so that that would be out there, and as well as the reports being made available. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and hopefully I can.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Goodenough?
Great job, Shelley. Some simple questions. So we're estimating that based off we anticipate development on your slide there in the next 25 years to develop 186.73 hectares. That works out to about 7.44 hectares per year. To date, we've only done 1 hectare based off of when this was done in 2021. Is that realistic to think that we're going to develop that much? And is there a trend? Like, we haven't seen a trend like that my understanding, well, from what I would say, in our city in several years. So I'm just wondering if there should be a readjustment.
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. Excellent question. So on page 10 of the update shows the anticipated development, and it's not that same amount each year. What we did when we first put this together, and this was done by our previous manager of planning and engineering and MPE, is they estimated based on our the compilation of most of our master plans, what their projected growth was going to be. And if you notice that of course it breaks down in different areas, but even the total, it starts out at 6.26 hectares and goes up each year. So it's graduated. And this is probably the most impossible thing to forecast because we don't know how much development is going to happen. So the assumptions that have been used are based on what is projected in our master plans. And the importance of this is that updates should be done each year to adjust that. So when we adjusted the update, when we're doing this update, we adjusted what was originally forecasted for 21 and 22 to what actually was forecasted. And that puts everything back into perspective. You'll notice at the very end of this planning period, we didn't continue to increase it. And basically the reason being is for this particular update, we didn't have a huge methodology for that to continue that update. So we felt that it was conservative and it was better just to maintain it at the 2045 year and not to escalate it further, even though the last time we did it, it escalated each year. So we do know from our master plans that growth promotes growth, and so as we grow, it grows up, and that was the basis of that estimate. And we're trying to maintain the same basis for all of the assumptions that we make. So this assumption might be high and it may be low, but it's because it's very hard to determine. We felt that it's best to stay with the same assumptions that are forecasted in our master plans.
Councillor Wardrop.
Just to follow up on that, sorry to push Shelley. So were previous forecasts more accurate then? Like I appreciate that it's really difficult to predict, but were forecasts done previously more accurate? Like have we kind of ebbed and flowed that drastically? Have we ever come close to hitting that 6?
So through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, we've not used this model in the past except for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And to answer that, the forecast in the previous update, which is also attached, and I'll just try and find it quickly, which it's here. We did forecast altogether for 21 and 22. We did forecast 12.25 hectares to be developed, and as I reported, 1.02 was developed. In order to, this could be revamped, but we felt that development could happen any time. So it's still based on solid assumptions from our master plans. However, by putting the actual amount that is adjusted, it does adjust the model and account for that over adjustment that we did last year. So that does get adjusted as we, so I think the importance is to, unless we change the basis of our assumptions, the importance is to update it so that the model gets adjusted and the rates, all of that new information gets taken into account.
Kind of leading into that, because hopefully development will happen at any time. Overall, what potential impact will this have on developers, I guess, coming, who want to build either residential or commercial? Off-site levies are it's a big ticket item, and it's a big hindrance, I guess, to somebody wanting to start a larger project. Is 2%, right? 2% increase, is what we would see. Yeah, just any thoughts on that, if that would be significant enough to deter somebody?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, 2% is the best way we can express it, because it would be different for each off-site levy area, depending on the projects. And I guess, I can't really speak to whether that would deter, the increase would deter developers. But I would say that it does reflect some of the inflation and increased financial assumptions, so it would be expected. The fact that we didn't develop as much as we planned to would imply an increase. So I think all I can say is that I feel that the assumptions are reasonable. Whether there's a deterrence or an impact, I can't really speak to that.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Idris.
Thank you again. Complex information, and I'm going to try to make sense of it for myself. So, if I understand correctly, we need to collect 19.22. This is based on I think, I don't know the number of the slide. Okay, so and then, so where I'm going with this, so we need to collect 19.22, and we have collected 6.1. Wrong?
So I'll just bring it back, because I know there's a lot of information. And so if we were to do all of the infrastructure, so if all of the development happened, it's assumed we would require all of the development that we have identified. So if that were all to happen, then in the 25-year period, we would need to collect 19.22 million to do all of these infrastructure projects. The 6 million that we've collected, just under or 5 million of that has been used for projects already, because it's really our off-site levy balances is what we have towards these future projects.
And
So
that is where my question was, because I see from that the balance we have is 1.1. So does that 1.1 being the future, does that mean, as you said, if everything is done, we only have 1.1 out of the 19.22?
Yes, that would be correct, is we've already collected 1.1 million for these projects, for future projects. And we have an obligation to apply those funds only to projects that have been identified in our off-site levies bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jessica.
Yeah, thank you very much for this, Shelley. So you've got sanitary sewer infrastructure, wastewater treatment upgrades, which I'm assuming is a new treatment plant, which we're kind of expecting at some point in the future. The 21 million seems a bit light, so have you built in some assumptions about grants for these projects?
Through the chair to Councillor Jessica, yes. So we've identified again, it's very difficult to know what grants we're going to receive, but we've identified the special earmarks grants and taken that off of those infrastructure costs based on the grants that we identified in the 10-year capital plan. So when we did the 10-year capital plan, we made sure that it was aligned with our offsite levy bylaw, so that it also reflected the projects that were from our master plans. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure that every project in our master plans were there, but the ones that staff felt were necessary for this growth were definitely used. So it is aligned with our master plans for the most part. But we also aligned those grants with what we used in the 10-year capital plan. So because we've just did the 10-year capital plan, yes, last year, we did update some of those assumptions, which were favorable because we hadn't identified all of those special earmark grants until we did the plan. So that was something that is also, it's also important to continue to update.
Councillor Prentice.
So with our sewage upgrade we're going to likely have to do, excuse me, within the next 5 years, it doesn't look like our growth is going to be much. What would that do to the off-site levy to like households and whatever? How is that going to affect, or if there's no more big growth, how is that going to affect putting several millions of dollars into something that there's no big contractors coming in or no development?
So
We're forced to do it.
through the chair to Councillor Prentice, that's probably the hardest question to answer because
Well, it should be easy.
the model is very four-dimensional. So if there isn't growth, we would be adjusting those rates every year to reflect that absence of growth. And we'd also be adjusting the projects too. So in this particular update, we didn't change any of the assumptions about the projects. However, as time goes by, if we don't have growth, we can look and say, we need that project to happen sooner or later. And that all of those things affect the rates. So we try to, what the model does is it tries to develop the most fair and equitable rates based on the assumptions. And as we change those assumptions, the rates will change and change based on our needs. So as we don't have projects, you can say there it would, or sorry, if we don't have growth over the next few years, that will have a negative impact on our rates because it'll bear more responsibility on the developers because we don't have that growth. However, other assumptions will also change without growth, like the necessity of some of those projects may move off further into the future. So all of those things will change the dynamics of what comes up with the fair and equitable rates in the model. Does that make sense?
I know where you're going. In other words, the taxpayer here are going to have to pay pretty heavy to cover that cost when it does happen, because it's going to happen within the next 5 years. And I can't see growth, so I'm just wondering, how long do you take to collect that whole pile of money, like the people that are already here?
Yeah, so if the city proceeds with a project that needs to be done and doesn't have the support of all of the developers, then it goes into the model as an upfronting cost on the city's behalf. And what would happen is it would put that reserve into a negative balance, and then we would be charging the future developers to make up for what we've upfronted. So that, again, would have an impact on on future rates. But again, with that being said, all of the other assumptions would change accordingly too. So it's not one level steady band of assumptions. Everything's changing, and it is designed to be fair and equitable and to take all of those things into account.
Good, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Wardrop.
My question is kind of to do with the areas, and what type of development is, or do we know what kind of anticipated development there would be? Is there a breakdown, and forgive me if it's in there and I missed it, if there's residential and commercial, kind of a breakdown of what would be forecasted? I just noticed that a lot of the, like if I look at the table of like the different ones of the anticipated development and the areas that are likely to receive the most money or collect the most money, a lot of them are real outlier areas where it looks like it would be more likely to have commercial development there. And I'm wondering, yeah, if you could just speak to if there's a breakdown or if there's a way for us to predict more kind of what type of development is forecasted.
So through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved in the forecasting of the development when it happened in 2021, but I do have a file that has some information. Just because I'm not an engineer, for sure, but I think Alan.
Alan will comment on it.
Yeah, and that information would have been informed from our statutory plans, our municipal development plan, and our area structure plans. So that's where they would have gathered a lot of that information from.
Councillor Goodenough?
So just a follow-up to Councillor Wardrop's question then. So like for area 18.1, if everything goes through, that area will become possibly a solar panels, right? How does that reflect then into this for off-site levies?
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, I'm not
tracking.
I'm not familiar with the development agreement of that project, but that would be probably negotiated in the development agreement. I don't know if Alan.
Yes, and through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, I believe in our bylaw and our processes, when you have some of those developments that do not use the services, I think there's some leeway within that bylaw. And then once we know that goes ahead for sure, and if that does go like that, then the following year all those assumptions would change as to still what's developed, and would change all those. So it's just a moving target annually, and you try to do the best that you can, and it'll change every year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wardrop. Yeah.
It's just another question about the like the 2021 update. So I don't know if or how much we can speak to that, but I was curious about the recommendations, the list of recommendations. I see like a couple of them. Like I don't know before 2021, for instance, if things were split into the 4 different types of infrastructure, or there just looks like there's some good recommendations here, and I'm wondering if they all worked for the city, or if some of them are still a work in progress, or like were these all implemented? Because some of them, it sounds like I would assume we were already doing, but then it's in a recommendation, a list of recommendations. It's on page 86.
So through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, I believe that we've implemented all of these. So this was the actions that were recommended to do in order to continue on with the model through the consultant Corvus Business Advisors. And so we did consolidate our offsite levy accounts. We amended our balances, and we did put together an offsite levy policy and practice framework, which was brought to council.
That's right.
We established a documentation process and are continuing to use the model. So we document everything so that we have the information to feed into the model each year. And that includes tracking amounts, front-ending costs, and all of the information that I kind of went through that the model requires, including the interest rates and the projected project costs and so on and so forth. We didn't update everything. We kept the same assumptions for some things, but consciously, because we thought the assumptions were still relevant. The only thing that we did, because it was brand new, we didn't update the model in 1 year. We did it in 2023 as opposed to 2022, which the recommendation, I think, says to update annually. So moving forward, we really think it's important to update it annually. It is pretty labor intensive to go through all the information, but it's valuable and it keeps it relevant. So I would fairly confidently say that yes, we did follow all of the recommendations in the report.
Okay. To the motion that council accept the offsite levy presentation as information. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Shelley. Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that Catherine Siakulak be appointed to the Brooks Public Library Board for a first 3-year term commencing October 17th, 2023 and ending October 16th, 2026. What is that? Oh, Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council, I'm happy to give Shelley a little bit of a break here before her next items. The Brooks Public Library Board recently reviewed a member-at-large application, and they are recommending that this person be appointed to the board. Catherine Siakulak has recently moved to Brooks and is eager to serve the community by being a volunteer member on this board. She has a love of reading and libraries and is a communications professional. Therefore, administration is recommending that Catherine Siakulak be appointed to the Brooks Public Library Board for the term specified.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jessica that Maureen Lynn be appointed to the City of Brooks Environmental Advisory Committee as a City of Brooks Citizen at-Large member for a first 3-year term commencing October 17th, 2023 and ending October 16th, 2026. Amy again.
Thank you again. Through the chair to mayor and council, Eco Brooks is made up of 12 members, and out of the 12 members, not more than 7 members may be citizen at-large members, with a maximum of 2 residing outside of the city, but within the boundaries of the County of Newell. Maureen Lynn has applied to serve on the committee as she has personal and professional interest in the environment. In university, her thesis focused on what influenced people to become environmentally active. She is presently a school counselor for Grasslands and believes that her experience in the community and the school division would be beneficial to the committee. Therefore, administration is recommending that Maureen Lynn be appointed to the City of Brooks Environmental Advisory Committee as a citizen, as a City of Brooks citizen at-large member for the term specified.
Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Nesbitt that Jess Bechtel be appointed to the Safe Communities Committee for a second three-year term commencing October 20th, 2023 and ending October 19th, 2026. And further, that Emerus Oliver be appointed to the Safe Communities Committee for a first three-year term commencing October 20th, 2023 and ending October 19th, 2026. Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. The Safe Communities Committee is made up of 14 members, and 2 of those members have terms expiring in the near future, and they would like to be reappointed. Emerus Oliver is currently a youth member who will be turning 18 soon, and they would like to be appointed as a member at large. And Jess Bechtel is currently a member at large and would like to be reappointed for another term. Therefore, administration is recommending that Jess Bechtel be reappointed to the Safe Communities Committee for a second three-year term commencing October 20th this year and ending October 19th, 2026. And further, that Emerus Oliver be appointed for a first three-year term commencing also October 20th this year and ending October 19th, 2026.
Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Amy. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the ATCO Gas franchise fee percentage remain at 19.5% in 2024. Shelley.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. So the City of Brooks renewed a natural gas distribution system franchise agreement with ATCO Gas Pipelines in September of 2024, subsequent to the passing of Bylaw 0410, which authorized the 20-year agreement. Franchise fees are paid to the municipality in consideration of the exclusive grant of franchise, the ability to use right-of-ways and other mutual covenants. They are collected from ATCO Gas customers in the community based on the percentage of their delivery tariff. Currently, the percentage applicable to the City of Brooks is 19.5. The maximum percentage that can be charged is 35%. Clause 4A of the agreement describes the method in which franchise fees are calculated and collected on behalf of the City of Brooks, and the annual process required by both ATCO Gas and the city to review and set this franchise fee percentage. Notification of change in the franchise fee percentage must be given to ATCO Gas no later than November 1st of the year prior to the increase. Otherwise, the percentage needs to remain the same. To provide some further information, the average percent among the 70 ATCO Gas and Pipeline municipal customers in the Alberta South region, which is the region we're in, is 18.88%. The average within this region of the cities and towns over 10,000 population is 22.18%. And the average of municipalities within the County of Newell is 19.13%. Attached is a summary of the franchise fee revenue that the City of Brooks has realized from 2014. It actually is from 2012. I was going to make it smaller, but 2014 to 2022, as well as the estimate for 2023 and the forecasted amount for 2024 based on ATCO Gas's forecasted delivery tariff. So that, I seem to only have one page of my report. Yeah. So the ATCO Gas franchise fee, the recommendation is that the franchise fee percentage remain at 19.5 in 2024.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Goodenough.
Can you explain where the franchise fee money goes? Like, what do we use it for?
So through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. So it is part of our other revenue in our budget. So we haven't specified any costs. However, for ATCO Gas franchise fees, there have been times in history where we increased the fees to use it for certain things, which is what was the reason for the increase. But basically, the franchise fees are part of our other revenue that we collect other than taxes and user fees.
Right. So I'm just curious. I'm wondering, if it's possible to not increase, but, or not even to go back to 2020 of an 18%. And the reason why I'm asking this is, I think right now we're going into a situation where the economy is not as good as it was, and I think to give our taxpayers, especially with ATCO or these gas revenues, a little break coming up in this next year, I think it would be it'd be good for their pocketbooks, I think, and to help. I notice other municipalities, I believe other municipalities are looking at that, but I'm just, I don't know, I'm kind of tough season.
Councillor Jessica, did you have a comment? Oh, I saw you ready for the button there, but.
Just thinking about being the devil's advocate, so it sounds like essentially this goes into general revenues, is that correct? Like you were saying where the money was going?
So through the chair to Councillor Jessica, if we did not receive this revenue, we would have to increase the tax rate
Yeah,
in
so-
order
so
to
it
cover
essentially would
our
make-
expenditures.
Really make no difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, Alan, yeah.
Through the chair to mayor and all of council, actually, the one difference with your franchise fees is that anybody that uses the utility pays for that. So you spread it over more people. You spread it against, you know, over to like exempt properties like churches, schools, hospitals. They all pay a portion of that. If you do reduce that and don't have other savings, you have to increase your tax rate, which is a narrow base that pays for it all. However, on the other side, in support of what Councillor Goodenough says, those that industry and places like that that need to use higher utilities pay a little bit more for sure.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, and go to the motion then, that the ATCO gas franchise fee percentage remain at 19.5% in 2024. All those in favor? Oh, did you?
I'm just wanting to confirm that that wasn't a motion or a suggestion or.
It's not a motion, but it's I would recommend, I think that we would relook at this for this next year to an 18%. So, yeah, I'll make a motion. Is that possible?
Do we, now
Or-
the motion would be to table this, right? And go ahead, Alan.
Through the chair to mayor and council, the tabling may be an issue because of the timing that we have to get this in for our 2024 budget. Unfortunately, we get this stuff from these utilities very late. But if there was a motion to amend that motion, we can sure entertain that.
So, Councillor Goodenough, what do you want to do there?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we reduce the franchise fees to 18%.
I'll just get the motion here, then I'll read it here. So-
to 80%?
That's correct, 18%. So it's a 1% increase would result, so that's what would take it off, 36,000 a year. That's less than that's not even a.
Okay, moved by Councillor Goodenough, that the motion be amended to reduce the ATCO gas franchise fee be reduced to 18%. Do we just vote on this one here then?
Vote on the amendment.
We'll vote on the amendment. What's that? Discussion?
Yep.
Okay, we'll open up discussion, okay. Councillor Idris.
I was going to ask for the number. What would that mean?
Well, I wasn't anticipating the change to 18%, so I'd have to calculate it, but I can do that for you.
While that is going on, like with the inflation, two things actually. One, would us bringing that number down to 18 mean that ATCO Gas will have to bring theirs down? Because the,
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
Yes, so the city does have that right to set that franchise fee. So if we say 18% or whatever percent, as long as we don't go over their maximum cap, they do have to follow that.
the other question is, what would that also do? And that's why I was trying to get the number. What would that do to the tax rate for next year?
So through the chair to Councillor Idriss. So the impact of reducing it to 18%, is my flash calculations here, is a $54,423. And the impact to of course, we would have to raise those dollars through tax dollars. And I would say, because of the reasons that Alan just explained, there would probably be a larger impact than there would be to the, on the residential side for sure, than there would be to the utility users. But it would impact everybody because it's a different basis of charge. So it would impact different people different ways.
Yeah, through the chair to mayor and council, we collect, every percentage that we collect in taxes is about $135,000, $140,000 or so. So this 54 would represent less than a third, probably less than a third, or
So,
more than a third, yeah. 0.4 is close.
Yeah, okay, Council, did you have another
yeah,
one?
so just
Councilor Idriss, yeah.
my opinion on the change, and my concern is that, especially with the time we are going in now, like everyone knows things are actually getting more expensive than getting cheaper, and with the need, if we wanted to increase this, because maybe in the future, in 2 years, and I saw with the other one, the suggestion is that to increase it in couple years with the other franchise that we are going to discuss in a minute, as like future in 2 years. So if we bring this down now, it's like almost a point and a half, would that make it that much more difficult to go back to the same level?
Yeah, I don't have the answer on that one, yeah, but yeah, something to, okay, Councilor Jessica, and then Wardrop, yeah.
You know, from what I'm hearing, if we did this, the cost to the individual taxpayer would be higher than the benefit to the individual taxpayer, so I really don't see why we'd want to do this.
Councilor Wardrop?
I just wanted clarification on an answer. I think Councillor Idriss said, you're asking like if we lowered the franchise fees, then would ATCO be required to lower? So yes, they would, but I think the heart of your question is, would the consumer see, is that what you're asking? Like, would the consumer actually see the discount? Because we see the, you know, in gas prices, for instance, gasoline, you get this discount off of, you get the, I can't remember what it's called, the fuel discount, 18 cents or whatever, but actually consumers aren't actually seeing that benefit. And I'm not sure how it's a little, there's an oversight body, there's the, I'm not sure how that works, but.
There is a line on, on your bill, like a municipal franchise fee, but you would see going from 19.5 to 18, it would go lower. So the consumer, the residential consumer, would see a decrease in their utility rate. But it's also based on consumption too, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it's also, if you have a colder winter, you're using it more. Yeah, so, okay, Councilor Goodenough.
Part of the reason for this motion is I think we have to understand that, your franchise fee is, it's basically, and I don't mean to be mean on this, but it's a tax.
Yeah.
And we're taxing people, I think, in a time where we're wrestling with a carbon tax, where we know for a fact that our utilities are going to go through the roof this year, and we have an opportunity as a municipality to maybe give people a little help. And the reason why I asked at the beginning of this, my question was, what's this money allotted for? I didn't even, not to be mean, but we didn't get a clear answer. It goes into our general revenue. I get that. But we're not saying this is allotted to sports programs. This isn't allotted to a certain thing. This is kind of a tax that I feel that we have an opportunity to say, okay, let's lower it for our businesses and for our residential people. And we can look at this again in a year, because it comes back every year. But it's not allotted money that we say, like we just spoke about with the levies. So it's an opportunity, I think, that we can look at for our people.
Okay, Councillor Jessica, then, yeah.
But at the end of the day, the budget is this big. If you take this out of the budget, then that money's gonna have to come from someplace else. And it will cost the residents more per resident than if we leave it the way it is.
Councillor Goodenough.
The great thing is we're going into budget, though.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong on this, and I'm glad to be corrected on this, but if we know going forward, based off of that, we're going to not have that 36,000 or whatever that amount will be, sorry, I don't think it'll be 36, but whatever that extra 1.5% will be, then we budget accordingly to our household, like just like you would run your household. So,
Councillor Idris. Okay. Go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah, so through the chair to council. So just for clarification, so the money is allotted to municipal services, the same municipal services that are funded through municipal taxes. So if that revenue stream is lowered, then yes, when we go to budget, we would either have to lower our services, the cost of our services, or increase the amount of municipal tax revenue to make that up. And because it's allocated on a different basis, it's hard to identify who would be affected more. However, with the broader base of utilities, it would likely impact many residents more than other, but maybe some less as well. So.
Okay, to the motion then. Okay, all those in favor, I'll read the motion again. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the motion be amended to reduce the ATCO Gas franchise fee be reduced to 18%. All those in favor?
oh, I'd be in favor of.
Your motion.
Yeah, my
You're
mo-
to your motion.
Okay.
Okay, so defeated. And now we go back to the original motion here. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the ATCO Gas franchise fee percentage remain at 19.5% in 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Carried. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that the Fortis Alberta franchise fee percentage remain at 14% in 2024. Shelley.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. So the city of Brooks receives electrical franchise fee revenue each month based on a percentage of Fortis Alberta's distribution revenue. The city has the opportunity each year to review its electrical distribution franchise fee percentage. The percentage applicable to the city of Brooks is currently set at 14%. The maximum percentage that the city could increase its rate to would be 20%, based on the franchise fee rider cap, which is established by Fortis Alberta. Any desired distribution rate changes would be effective January 1st, 2024, and again, we'd need to have those changes into Fortis by November 1st. Based on Fortis Alberta's forecasted 2024 distribution and transmission tariffs, each percentage of increase would result in approximately $91,744 of franchise fee revenue. And interestingly enough, they have a calculator that you can calculate the impact of their residential electrical bills, their average residential electrical bills, and their impact for a 1% increase would be 80 cents per month on their electrical bill. So the summary is attached, the same as the natural gas franchise fees. And the recommendation is that the 2024 electrical franchise fee percentage remain at 14% based on the forecasted distribution revenues provided for Fortis. So I did, just before questions, I did do a bit of a analysis on the impacts because I have this calculator. And however, I didn't bring it with me, so I'd have to send that out tomorrow. I meant to have it with me, but I don't. But it basically shows that the impact through the electrical rates is on the average residential, which is the only thing I could compare it to, is significantly lower than an increase in property taxes. However, that doesn't account for non-residential properties.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Woodruff. Okay. Anybody else got a question here while we wait? Okay.
I guess, again, just to play devil's advocate here, the other way. So for a very small impact of 80, is that 80 cents per month per household to increase a percentage that gets us over $91,000 in franchise fee revenue? That's a very, very small impact for, that's a lot of bang for our buck. And I really appreciate that costs are high right now. 80 cents per month for over $90,000 of revenue is justifiable, in my opinion. I think we could entertain that. You know, we've got a lot of projects that we're looking at right now, and we have a lot of services to provide, and this is a lower impact to the residential taxpayer, and it is a way of collecting a substantial amount of money for a very low cost per household. So I'd actually motion that we do increase by 1%.
Yeah, so we have to make an amendment. You want to make an amendment to the motion that we go from 14 to 15%?
I do.
Okay.
Sorry, but it's 80 cents per month per household.
Yeah. Okay, here's the motion here. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that the motion be amended to increase the electrical franchise fee to 15%. Okay, any comments? Okay, Councillor Jessica. Oh,
Shelley, do
sorry,
you have any
Shelley.
comments?
Yeah, go ahead, Shelley, and then, yeah.
So through the chair to council, I just wanted to clarify that the increase of 80 cents per month is the increase in 1% of Fortis franchise fee percentage, so if we increased it. However, there is also an increase from 2023 to 2024 based on the rates that Fortis is charging. So there is a inflationary increase that residents will see, as well as any additional increase. So that, I just wanted to clarify that to be considered. And that is the increase from 2023 to 2024 without increasing our Fortis franchise percentage is $5.62 per residential household. And if we increase to 15, it would be 80 cents more. So it would be $6.42. So that is based on the Fortis franchise fee and projected increase. And I just will comment that based on their letter that's attached, the rates have not been, they have not been approved by the AUC. So for purposes of this, their forecasts, they're using distribution rates increasing by 3.71%, which they don't really know if that's going to happen or not. So I just wanted to make sure that that was known, that there's already a natural increase from year to year.
Okay, Councillor Woodruff.
So are you saying that the, so because their yearly increase hasn't been approved by the AUC, could it be more than what they've put out there already, or would it likely be, I guess, could it go either way if it hasn't been approved? To me, it would be unlikely to be higher.
So through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, as the letter states, basically, typically, rate information for the coming year is known by early September, and Fortis Alberta recognizes this delayed timeline for the 2024 rates will be a challenge for municipalities as they prepare their budget. To allow municipalities to start budgeting, Fortis Alberta has created the franchise fee calculator with the assumption that both transmission and distribution rates would increase 3.71%. And it says currently inflation in 2024 is expected to be somewhat lower than 2023, and therefore Fortis Alberta considers that assuming the rate of 3.71 is reasonable, on balance. However, actual rate change for 2024 could be materially different than estimated on this percentage. So they have explained that in their letter that they've just estimated. But I did notice the increase from year to year because of their increased in rates. For the impact on the household is, even without us increasing, there is an impact. So based on what they are using for an assumption of increased rates.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, okay.
Yeah, well, that wasn't, I did not consider that could fluctuate, and we have no reassurance of how much that could fluctuate. So in that being said, then if I would like to retract? Withdraw, thank you.
Okay.
Just searching for that word. Withdraw the motion. However, I would like to note that maybe when we have a longer period of time, we could look at that, because it does seem like it is a lower impact way to get tax revenue that we unfortunately have to collect. Yeah. That's an ugly truth. That is the way it is. But when we have more time to look at it, if this is a lower impact cost on the average resident, then this could be something that we could look into. Okay. So,
Ellen.
I just know, talking to the Fortis reps, that because the Alberta Utilities Commission, if that's the right body at this time, it might be something else now. We're so late in their decision, they were hoping actually to see if they could change the date that these had to be in, but the letter came shortly thereafter, so I'm guessing that they were not successful.
especially because, we are heading into budget soon, and we have lots of different considerations to make, and we obviously always want to keep it low impact to the residents.
Okay, to the original motion, that Fortis Alberta franchise fee percentage remain at 14% in 2024. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Woodruff that council accept the financial report 2023 year-end forecast as information. Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. Okay. So throughout the last month, in all of September, as we always start our budget process by forecasting our current year. So the management team has reviewed all of our operational and capital accounts, produced a forecast as to what our variances would look like at the end of the 2023 year based on current assumptions. We like to do this so we can identify areas of the budget that need to be looked at and reviewed, but also to present to council a report showing any explanation of forecasted variances. So it's important to remember that these forecasts are prepared with information that we have now, and that circumstances may change before the end of the year, and some already have here and there, and that could have a dramatic effect on this projected outcome. So the summary of forecasted 2023 year-end results is departments that are funded from property taxes. Our forecasted surplus is $476,139. And you'll see that there's a couple of large things that account for that, but many of the variances that have been forecasted have been identified throughout the year, and you've heard them in my variance reports. And although I have in this report repeated some of those things that are significant, I try to focus on variances that have been identified just through the forecasting process that we weren't really aware of before. But as we've heard before, it's anticipated that interest income will be approximately $548,796 higher than budget, which is obviously one of the big drivers of that large surplus. And that's due to considerably higher interest rates than what we saw in 2022. Pursuant to the City of Brooks reserve policy, our budget for interest income is set at 1.5% of the city's reserve balances, and any amounts over that budget will be put into the stabilization reserve at the end of the year. So a lot of this surplus, or all of this surplus, based on our reserve policy, will go into that reserve. Other factors, the vacancies throughout the year in the Human Resources Department have created a favorable variance which will be offset by unbudgeted contracted HR services. Combined, it's anticipated to leave a favorable variance of approximately $34,000. The corporate safety contract is expected to be approximately $31,000 over budget due to increases in salaries and the contract for external core audit, which will happen in 2023. Computer software costs have increased in 2023, mostly due to inflation, as well as the shift to some cloud-based applications, which will ultimately save some capital costs in the future. So in 2023, we anticipate a negative variance of $19,000. Throughout the year, administration has reported probably a few times on RCMP variances, as we anticipate that we will have significant impact at the end of the year. To summarize, it's anticipated that we will see a $139,000 decrease in RCMP fine revenue due to less traffic enforcement, and a further negative variance of $149,000 due to higher 2023 contract costs. To offset the RCMP fine revenue, we anticipate that fine revenue generated through municipal enforcement will be approximately $66,000 over budget. We anticipate a favorable variance in pavement repair costs of approximately $50,000 and storm sewer repairs of $69,000. The cost of electricity for streetlights is expected to be over budget by $60,000. So there's a little bit of history for this one. In 2017, the city sold our investment in street lighting to Fortis and converted our lights to LED lighting. With this transaction, our street lights rates were increased. However, energy savings were anticipated to offset the increase somewhat. Since that time, we've been using the proceeds from our streetlight investment to cover our budget variances. So each year we have had these variances and we've covered them through those proceeds. The proceeds have now been exhausted, so the variance will be realized at the end of the year. And administration plan to look at this budget when we go into 2024 to adjust it accordingly. As previously reported, the Youth Development Center only operated a few months in 2023 before the building was sold. So as a result, rental revenues were lower by $46,000 and expenses lower by $29,000, netting a negative variance of $17,000. Again, I do remember reporting on that one as well. So those are our tax base variances that some of the more significant ones that we've identified. In water, our budgeted transfer to reserve is forecasted to be $40,000 higher than anticipated. So our reserve transfer was budgeted at $557,000, and it's forecasted to be $597,000. And this is mostly due to higher forecasted revenues due to increased consumption, offset by the higher costs of that purchase of treated water. I also wanted to just point out we had a negative variance in bank charges of about $13,600, and this is due to increased electronic payment methods used for utility accounts. So this is just a budget that we'll be addressing in the upcoming budget, so that's why I wanted to point it out. We've noticed throughout a lot of the municipality, bank charges are higher because we use these services more. So there's some budgets that we'll address in the budget process. Surface irrigation. Reserves will need to fund the excess expense over revenues of $21,345. The reserve transfer was budgeted to be $30,500, and it's forecasted to be zero, of course, because we'll need to bring money in from the reserve. And this is due to lower service charges collected and some unbudgeted line repairs resulting from the Brooksnet project. In sewer, budget transfers to reserve is forecasted to be $119,500 higher than anticipated. This reserve transfer was budgeted at $304,500 and is forecasted to be $424,000. And this is mostly due to an over-allocation of salaries and wages in the budget and higher forecasted sanitary sewer fees to be collected. With garbage and recycling, the budget transfers reserve is forecasted to be $147,700 lower than anticipated. The reserve transfer was budgeted at $217,200 and is forecasted to be $69,500. And this is due to lower service fees than anticipated, offset by lower and salaries and wages than the amount that was allocated in the budget. And both the commercial garbage and cardboard collection program budgets will be looked at in the 2024 budget, and we'll adjust that. This is kind of our first year of knowing what the contract amounts are and what our offsetting expenses are as well. So in regards to the capital budget, most of the major projects budgeted for 2023 are forecasted to be within budget for the year, or finished in 2024 by carrying over the current year's budget to next year so that those projects can be funded and completed next year. Just a few exceptions are the street improvement projects for 2023 is anticipated to be $181,866 less than budget. The fitness center, a lower flex hall roof project, will be $99,835 under budget, as the decking replacement was not required as originally anticipated. Although the JBS lighting retrofit required more light replacements than originally anticipated and is expected to be over budget by $57,977, the CRA lighting retrofit is expected to be under budget by approximately $44,602. It's estimated that the CRA weeping tile replacement is expected to be over budget by $40,804 due to additional paving and cement work. However, the CRA ice plant floor replacement should be completed with a 63,729 favorable variance, as the contingency built into that budget will likely not be needed. So the recommendation, of course, I'll try to answer any questions, is that this report be accepted as information.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Prentice.
On your water reserve, or cost there for 40,000 higher, due to higher consumption, well, I thought we charged by the cubic meter, so how can that be, or what am I missing here?
So, through the chair to Councillor Prentice, first I'll say that it's hard to forecast where we're going to be at the end of the year, but because we have we charge our service fees are escalating, so the more consumption you use, the higher rate you have, and the expense that we have for treated water is per cubic meter across the board. We looked at the excess amount of consumption that's used and felt that we'd be collecting more service fees than we'd be paying out for treated water. There were also several other small favorable variances in the expenses that would contribute to that as well. So the increased revenue is the main source, but it's not the sole source of that favorable variance for water.
Okay, that's clear as mud, but okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Councillor Goodenough.
Great report. Okay, question number one. Just with the RCMP variance, I'm just curious, to summarize, it is anticipated that we will see a $139,000 decrease in RCMP fine revenue due to less traffic enforcement. Maybe, could that be explained why there's less traffic enforcement? I know that's not your area, but
Yeah.
and I know our RCMP aren't here, but how is there less than before?
You know, we looked at some stats here a while back, and it's hard to say what it's attributed to. You know, their crime severity index has gone up a little bit that we've seen. I think that was a little bit higher than average in Alberta. And on the other side of the thing, their clearance rates were a little higher than the rest of Alberta. So I don't know if more time was spent in that and less time was spent in traffic enforcement, but that would be a good question for the RCMP.
And is it, I'm just curious because that's did we estimate that we thought this is how much would come in? The reason why I'm thinking that is maybe we estimate too high because we're coming out of COVID, where 2 years ago it would have been a lot lower with less traffic on the road.
So through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, we have not modified the budget, so it probably does represent the amount of revenue that we were collecting pre-COVID, and I think that we've had negative variances in the past few years as well. However, we've never modified that budget, and if we did so, we would have to do that through the budget process. So that's something that we can look at in this budget process. But we have collected that amount in fine revenue in previous years, and in some years we've been higher than budget.
Okay, thank you. And then another question would be, with garbage and recycling, budget transfer to reserve is forecasted to be $147,700, lower than anticipated. So, sorry, so we were transferring more over or less? Less. So, not that we're looking for a pat on the back here, Bill and I, but is it because it is contracted out, now our rates are less, or with Smith Trucking in that regard?
So again, it's very difficult to forecast where we're going to be with service fees at the end of the year. But it, just based on the current rate, it indicates that our service fees are going to be lower than what we budgeted. So again, we'll have to review that now that the program is in full force and we know what the contracted services are, what our expenses are, and what our charges are, what service fees are bringing in based on our charges. So we'll be reevaluating that as well.
So it could be possible that we could see a decrease next year in that
So
service fee?
in order to, so in this report, we're reporting that our service fees are lower than anticipated. So in order to collect the amount we budgeted, we'd have to increase our
Okay.
service
All right.
fees.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? Councillor Woodrup.
Is the pavement repair and then the street improvement budget was well over $200,000 over. I think it was 181 for this, or no, am I mistaken? Yes, favorable, sorry, not, I meant to say a favorable variance. And then pavement repair also $50,000 favorable. Is that, that's a lot, is that typical to be over budget in that area? Seems like, and maybe it's just because anecdotally we get a lot of complaints about the roads, but is that something that's usually over budget?
So through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, we're forecasting to be under budget. And I know that Don's not here to
Sorry.
answer the questions, but I did ask him, and basically his answer was that there were just, they don't think that they'll be spending as much money as that's in the budget this year, just circumstantially. And that there were other areas in transportation that he had gone over budget or was watching. So because of that, he just held back on doing some of those projects, just to manage his budget, but it's mostly just a circumstantial. There was nothing out of the ordinary this year, so it's just an operational decision on his part.
So unfortunately, it wasn't like any lower costs, or it was just prioritizing different.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. To the motion then. All those in favor? Carried. Bruce, I don't know if the media is online. There's no media online. Okay, moved by Councillor Goodenough that the meeting adjourn at 6:33 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Okay.